Ladies and gentlemen, today we will be talking about the monolith of a book, House of Leaves. Now, you recently saw my journey through this behemoth, and along the way, I came across some interesting things. Today we're going to be talking about those interesting things. So, as you can see, I am wearing my Gengar hat. It is a slight reference to Everyman Hybrid, which takes elements from this book. It's not exactly this, they use a hunter hat and this is Gengar, but you know what? We're gonna work with what we have here, people. It's really warm in here. I'm taking this off. The gag's over. Go away. Alright, so today what we're gonna be talking about is some things I came across in the book, some ideas I have, what I think it could be as a whole. So as of right now, when I'm recording this, Nick Nocturne has put out his first part in his series talking about House of Leaves. I almost said Everyman Hybrid. Stop it, Rabbit. So he's already done his first part, where he talks about the first 9 chapters. I would also like to say thank you for using this picture of me. The worst still I've seen in my life. I've been laughing about this because it's just ugly. I look awful. But you know what? I'm happy that he actually put me and everyone else who submitted photos into the video. Well, not everyone, just about 200. He's working on that, though. I'm just like, I was really excited when I saw that. But continuing on, he did talk about something that I also picked up on through my own reading of the book, that the book itself is a labyrinth. An example, where is it? No, not chapter 2. Come here. Is the window pane text. Yeah, here it is. He punched a hole. And we're actually seeing a hole in the text. But this book itself is much like a labyrinth. He was right. I picked up on that too. What we are going to do today is I'm going to give some theories on to what I think is happening, some possibilities. And then I'm going to give my theory as to what I personally think is going on here, and then I'm going to talk about some questions that I still have and some possible answers to them. So, I put up on my personal Facebook, I just finished House of Leaves, what did I just read? And then my cousin said, that is my favorite book! I need to talk to you about it! And I'm like, okay, calm yourself. And we were talking about it, and he said something that I'm going to repeat verbatim. The point is that most of this is real, I think. You have to decide if you're a skeptic of the 5.5-minute hallway or not. You have to decide, do you believe Navidson's descent into the inky depths to be real? Is it, whatever it was that lives there, real? Or was it an elaborate hoax? And is the potential unmasking of that hoax something that undoes people due to more sinister forces? I tend to err on the side of this is the face of evil, and we have found it, and abandon all hope ye who seek it. There is an incredibly primal fear to not being able to see something stronger than you, to not being able to fathom or comprehend something of immense power. And then he said something about Johnny, which I just have to repeat here. Johnny is basically the guy who doesn't do anything in the group project, but still puts his name on it to get a grade. And I could not agree with that more. He then goes on to say that Johnny Tron is really more allegorical to a point, which I guess can be seen. But the point is, he's right, you do have to make a choice. Do you believe Zampano's story? Do you believe that the Navidsons were real? And what happened to them really did happen? Or do you believe that this is fake? That Zampano just wrote this as a piece of fiction? I don't believe either. Now, I know that's a little confusing, but I believe both simultaneously. I believe that in Zampano's mind, this was not just a piece of fiction. I believe he was telling his own story. We read that Zampano might have had a family, wife, child, maybe multiple children. We don't know. Probably won't ever know. And he seems to like the company of women. I think he wrote the Navidson record not as a this is what really happened, these people existed, that kind of thing. I think he wrote it more as, his own story. He's telling his own story. But at the same time, there are things happening to Johnny that we can't ignore. Is it all in his head? We don't know. I personally believe it's just this book has brought back his own demons because of his own problems with family. Like Nick said, they're echoes. Zampano and Johnny are echoes. Johnny is the echo of Zampano. Zampano probably had a family, wife, children. Something happened to them. He's here now. He's this old man, blind man. He's unhappy, probably, and lonely. Johnny is very similar. He becomes more and more like Zampano. Johnny lost his dad, his mom, every possible meaningful relationship he had to very similar experiences. I think either Navidson and his family were real, and Zampano took their story and crafted it into something more akin to what happened to him, or it's just completely his own. And he made this as like a way for him to work through his pain. I'm more inclined to believe that this was a way of him working through his pain. It struck me while I was reading this just how sad this book really is. It's sad because that is probably what happened. He had a family and now they're gone and now it's just him. And that's really, really tragic. I will, however, entertain for just a moment the possibility that this is real, that the Navidsons did exist, and that there is this big spooky house of infinite black depths somewhere out there. I don't believe that, but I'll get into what I think the house represents in a minute. If it is real, then where did Zampano come from? Why has no one heard of this? Why did people that say they haven't said anything about it or heard of it have quotes in the book? You see what I'm getting at? It doesn't make sense. Either, when I first read it, when I first, started to try and read it, which I did, I think, about a year ago, because I wanted to read it because Everyman Hybrid, I originally thought that Zampano was a dimension traveler, that he came from a different dimension, which is still a possibility, but not something I believe now. But, that could also work and kind of explain for the discrepancies, but I don't think that's what's going on here. I think that it's his story, it's Zampano's story, which later then becomes Johnny's story. Again, duality. Oh, which brings me to another thing about duality. Why did God create a dual universe? I don't think he's actually saying, why did God create a dual universe, that there's two different universes out there. I think it's duality and two people who are going through this similar things at roughly the same time or one after the other. Oh gosh, I forgot to put cream and sugar in that. Ugh. Oh, okay. So the house. The house. This, oh my gosh, the house itself is just a whole bag of worms in and of itself. Oh my gosh. So, the house morphs. And it's stated in the book that the other place, the Labyrinth, forms similarly to how the person who enters its mindset is. Which, it makes sense. What do I think the Labyrinth is? I think it is a representation of the mind. Now you're like, what? But think about it. A labyrinth. Different passageways. Kind of reminds you of the brain. And the fact that it changes based on whoever is in there. Makes sense when you think about it. It's a dark, scary place. For Holloway, he thinks there's a monster. Based on his own past, that's not too far-fetched to believe for him. It's different for everyone because everyone has their own demons. I don't think I'm explaining this as well as I think I am in my head. What I'm trying to say is, the labyrinth, I think, is a representation of people's minds. Whoever enters it, it becomes a part of them. It's part of their mind. So they see in it what they believe to see. Holloway believes that there's an actual monster in there and wants to kill it. That's very close to his personality. He's the hunter. He wants to get that prize. He wants to hunt. But Davidson, he's an explorer. He wants to explore, to have an adventure. So the labyrinth does that for him. Creates this big hall and subsequent rooms and passageways for him to explore initially. It's different for everyone who enters it. The reason why the dog and the cat don't get lost in it is because, well, I don't want to say they have simple minds, but they aren't as nearly as complex as humans, I'm afraid. So that's why the house is like, whoosh, backyard with you. And towards the end, when Karen goes in to find Davidson, she finds him because that is what is most important to her in that moment. That is what her brain is centered on, finding Davidson. I hope this is making a bit more sense. I hope I explained it as adequately as I would like to. So, some questions I have. Why is it called contrary evidence? It's a bunch of pictures. Why is it called contrary evidence? It's a bunch of pictures. Is it called contrary evidence to prove that it's not real? I don't know. Oh. Another thing that I was talking to my cousin about is the themes of the book. It is very Lovecraftian. From like a surface level, it's very Lovecraftian, you know. It's told mainly through this manuscript that, you know, Joe Schmo finds. Then Joe Schmo starts writing letters about it. Strange things happen to Joe Schmo. And then Joe Schmo suffers, you know, Lovecraftian stuff in the brain. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Lovecraft. It reminded me a lot of, you know, just how it's set up. Like the formatting. It also reminded me a lot of Dracula. For a different reason. The reason why Dracula works so well in book form is because of the way it's told. It's told through letters and newspaper clippings. It makes it feel more real because it's these things. It's not just a character sitting down and telling you what happened. It's little bits that come in, feed you the story, keep you coming back for it. That is what made Dracula work so well. I think if House of Leaves were to be made into a TV show like was proposed in 2017, it wouldn't have worked as well because the magic would have been lost. Because the magic exists in the print form. You can't just do all these crazy word art things and have that work on screen. You can try doing something else that, imparts the same message and feeling, but it won't be the same. I think why House of Leaves has become so popular is because it does that really well, like Dracula did. It takes its format and uses it to its advantage. So, some questions I still have. What happened to Tom? Is Tom just gone now? Is he forever stuck there in the house? I miss Tom. Tom was my favorite character. I loved Tom. He was so good. He was so nice. Wow. I didn't like Holloway at first, but then he just started to get sad. And I'm like, oh no, now I'm feeling empathy for him. Crap. Another question. What happened to Johnny? We know he's an unreliable narrator, so we don't know what happened to him. We don't know what's been happening to him pretty much through the entire book. We can't trust him. Even his last name is false, but I can understand why that is. I read the letters, his mom's letters, when the footnote first appeared in the book. I'm like, oh, well, I better read them now. It'll give me some insight into Johnny's character. I'm glad I did, because I was able to smell Johnny's BS. Another question. What happened to Zampano? Did he have a heart attack? Did he just die? Well, he didn't have a heart attack, he just died of old age. But is that really what happened? We don't know. And the Minotaur. I'm still not sure about that. I'm sure Nick will talk about it in his series. Overall, I'm very happy I read this book. It is just a wonderful book. I'm definitely gonna read it again. Probably next year. I feel like it's one of those books that you kind of have to read over and over again in order to really get. I'll tell you what, though. I'm glad I did read it. Also, another question. What's with the text colors? I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's only like 1 or 2 cases where there's purple text. Is the purple text, and it's crossed out, so is the purple text what Johnny himself took out from his own letters and then kind of put back in? I don't know. I'm sure Nick will explain it. I'm sure he will cover everything. I'm not too worried about that. But, I really, really enjoyed this book. I highly suggest you read it. It's gonna take you a while. It took me 3.5 days, and that was me reading for hours and hours and hours on end. I think at a reasonable pace, someone could finish this within a week. Maybe 5 days. I don't know. I was crazy. I read it in 3.5 days. Don't do that. You start to, feel weird. But I enjoyed it. I highly, highly recommend. I could not recommend this book enough. I think it's such an important piece. Also, listen to Poe's album Haunted. I did too. That was good. I actually liked that. I think I'm going to listen to it again. I'm sad that she isn't really making music as much anymore. She's really good. Please read the book and listen to the album. The album isn't that long. But thank you all so much for watching. Please go watch Nick Nocturne's series. Please go support him and his work. I love his stuff. Again, thank you to Nick and Mr. Danielewski as well for liking my tweet. I'm so happy. That made me really happy. So thank you, sir, if you're watching this. You probably aren't, but thank you. Also, Nick, thank you. You probably aren't watching this as well, but thank you. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys later. This is Rabbit, signing out.